whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or a phantom of night that hath no heart, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied, or a demon, or a ghoul. Whatever thou be, until thou art removed, thou shalt find here no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand to our own. Into our house enter thou not. Through our fence break through thou not. We are protected, though we may be frightened. Our life you may not steal, though we may be scared to death.
Welcome to Scared to Death, Creeps, Peepers, Roberts, and Annabelles. I'm Dan.
Hello, Dan. I'm Lindsay.
Hello, Lindsay.
Hello.
My voice feels like it's pretty much back now.
No, you sound and look better.
Okay, and look better. Was I looking unhealthy?
Not unhealthy, but I could just see the fogginess in your eyes. You just look tired for a while.
Good old local bee or local honey. There we go.
Have you been putting the bee pollen on your stuff?
No, I don't even know where it is.
I told you it's in the Lazy Susan next to the coconut that you put on your
yogurts.
Your yogurt parfaits.
So any allergy sufferers?
Yeah, it's been rough.
It's been rough, but I will say just a little tip. I mean, I usually would consider something like this a little hippy dippy, rightly or wrongly. But I listen to Lindsay, and I've heard for years that local honey, and it has to be local honey because then the bees are pollinating the things locally that are bothering you.
Right.
I don't know what the science is, if there is any, but I just know that it seems to be much more than placebo effect for me.
It is.
Because I started taking that stuff in a glass of hot water every day with some cayenne pepper and some lemon juice, and I have not taken Claritin D, have not taken Flonase. And I take that stuff daily and have taken it daily for years. And I feel way less dried out. And my allergies aren't that bad.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's pretty cool.
I also have you on
passing along some advice.
Well, I also have you on a hardcore vitamin regimen.
Yeah.
We added in mushroom forceps, or cordyceps. We added in an allergy tincture. You can also take nettles if your allergies are out of control. I know all the things.
I haven't looked up any of this stuff, but I know that I feel better.
I would love it if secretly I'm just giving you meth. You're I feel great.
I feel great.
I feel great.
I cleaned the house 4 times yesterday.
A little bit of cocaine.
I'm getting about an hour to sleep each night. And no.
Oh my gosh.
My teeth feel brittle, but other than that, I feel great.
That's fine. You already have soft teeth to begin with, so you probably just figure it's your teeth.
I don't have soft teeth. It's a weird thing to say.
You might have soft teeth.
Okay. We have a creepy show today with tales that may influence your nightmares or cause them. Before we get to the preview for those, cool new Scared to Death popcorn bowl in the store at badmagicmerch.com for some horror movie nights or whatever.
Well, yeah, if you...
Has a lid, you can use it as a storage container.
Yeah, I used it in the live watch party Jane Doe. I think Autopsy of Jane Doe. So if you saw me with that bowl, you know what it is. It's so cute.
If you're having problems with demons, maybe you could use it to trap one and seal them in there. I don't know.
I don't think so.
And we don't know for sure that it doesn't do that. We don't know that it does it, but we don't know for sure that it doesn't.
I'm going to say it probably doesn't.
Reminder that in large part, thanks to the Roberts and Annabelles on Patreon, we were able to donate $13,800 here at Bad Magic Productions to the Ocular Melanoma Foundation in honor of former Bad Magic magician Alex Roach, who was obviously passed way, way too soon. To find out more, go to ocularmelanoma.org. One last quick announcement, another reminder that on Thursday, June 10th, just like we did here on Scared to Death, doing another live show, this time a different Bad Magic show, Is We Dumb, hosted again, loopedlive.com, virtual doors open at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Show starts at 6:30, going to be a photo booth, a chat room, possibly some more bells and whistles. Going to be wild because, I say we hold back on Is We Dumb, but I leave almost every episode being like, well, that's the one that gets the whole network canceled. And I'm like, oh my God, probably shouldn't have said that. Probably shouldn't have said that.
I'm always out there cringing ooh, please don't.
That's going to get some trouble. That's going to get some trouble. And then this is but there are certain things with YouTube, with podcasts, hosting devices that we're like, that probably will truly, for sure, get us taken off.
Yeah.
We might be doing some of those things on the Loop Live show.
Did you and Joe name the show yet?
No, we're just going with live. We were thinking about all these crazy titles of live and uncensored, but it felt.
There were some during our staff meeting yesterday. There were some interesting titles being tossed around.
Oh yes, I forgot about those.
I will leave those out for the young ears that might be listening. It's a raw show.
It's much, much, much more adult than this show,
which is already.
Which is already we get let it fly a little bit.
Yeah.
If you thought Get the Fuck Out was bad, just do
buddy.
not ever listen to Is We Dumb, please.
No, you'll just hate Dan forever. They'll be like, oh, I didn't know that's what was working under there.
Okay, let's talk about some horror now.
Okay.
How many stories do you have today?
I have 2. My first story is a little haunted house situation, I'll call it. And then my second one,
Yeah, you were telling me about that one. Can I preview where the monsters may be located?
Sure, go ahead.
You said it was a good under the bed story?
Yes, monster, like literally, literally. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying that as some little segue into something
clickbait.
else. Nope. It is definitely monster under the bed. You are going to die.
Those are good stories. Good and terrifying.
Good.
Okay, so I have, 2 as per usual. The first story has drawn a lot of comparisons to the 2009 horror movie Orphan.
Did I see that one?
I think we may have seen that early on in our dating. Yeah. That movie came out before the story occurred. So,
Hey, babe.
yeah.
Didn't we start dating in 2012?
Yeah, I didn't say we saw it in the theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I knew that.
Okay.
The film, I want to say the film was not influenced by this story.
Okay.
So did this film influence the parents' choices and perception of reality in today's story? I mean, maybe, but that was never written anywhere.
Okay.
I just wanted to say this because it's mentioned a lot out there on the
Oh,
web of like,
okay.
oh my God, this is exactly like Orphan. Oh my God, this is
I
the
see.
plot of Orphan. So yeah, just throwing that out there to let creeps and peepers know that we're aware. I'm aware.
Okay.
And also the story, the first story, controversial. I will say right away that it could not be paranormal at all. I do know that, and it could just be very sad.
Oh.
Including it because it raises a possibility, however small, of something new, terrifying, and haunting. It really got my mind going.
Okay.
Sophie and I talked about it quite a bit. We were on the fence. Should we include it? Should we not include it? Chose to, just because of, you'll see in the setup of the story, like, it just, the possibility that it raises might be scarier than the story itself. That'll make sense soon.
Fair.
And then for the second story, we head to another possible haunted body of water, Nevada's Pyramid Lake.
No lakes.
I know. We're getting ready.
No, we spend a lot of time on the lake.
Interesting folklore, modern sightings, strange disappearances, what's going on underneath the water. And this is going to make us have scared moments on the lake for sure.
Okay, great. That is, you know what, Dan? I'm so glad that you're telling that story as we're edging into summer and, when we would want to be swimming in our lake.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad you chose to tell that story now so that I don't have any time to forget it between like now and, 4th of July.
I like to think about like, what are we doing coming up that's going to be fun? And then how can I ruin that by putting a lot of fear into the situation?
Okay, great. Well, I can think of a lot of things that I can ruin if that's the approach we're going to take.
You ready for this first tale? You need to settle in?
I am. I'll settle in. I'm going to wrap my leg up so we can just... I got this like set of unicorn socks that is
They're
like
funny.
a series of unicorns. And I'm trying not to show you guys everything. And I just want to say I'm wearing this dress. Now I have to cover up a little bit because it's a little bit booby.
You don't have to, but you are. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
my boobs were falling literally out of this dress this morning.
That's exciting.
Not at all scary. But Dan got me this pretty dress that I'm wearing and these earrings. I just want to give you some credit.
Oh yeah, those look good. Yes,
I know,
yes,
they're very
yes.
cute. So,
Okay, good. I took a chance and I got myself all worked up for nothing, and it was fine. I'm always worried about like you hate it, and this time I was like, whatever, it doesn't even matter.
It doesn't even matter.
It
It's
doesn't.
the thought. It's the thought that counts. Like,
Yeah, and that's the approach I took, and then it worked out.
and even if it didn't, I wouldn't be like. I just love how it sounds like, oh, when Dan gets
no,
the
you
gift
wouldn't.
wrong, Lindsay really
No.
brings down the hammer.
No, not true.
That's
Yeah.
not true at all.
Okay, so this first tale. So we've talked a bit on Scared to Death before about doppelgangers.
Oh shit. Okay.
Mimicking apparitions or entities who could make you doubt your view of the world, creatures that could make those around you doubt their view of the world. Making these malevolent beings extra frightening is how, after an encounter, you likely wouldn't feel like you could trust your eyes, your sense of reality anymore. If you've seen, for example, like a fake you or a duplicate version of someone else, wouldn't you start to wonder if everyone else around you, everyone you encounter, might not actually be who they say they are?
Correct.
Was the waiter who gave you the creeps for reasons you couldn't quite put your finger on at that dinner the other night who he claimed to be? Or was he something sinister, something not quite human, something not even close to human? Is one of your neighbors something else? Are all of your neighbors something else? Questioning reality like that could easily drive a person mad.
The neighbor thing would be really frightening.
It also easily could make everyone around you think you've gone mad. How many stories have we heard where at some point the people in them wonder if they're crazy or accuse one another of being crazy or are so afraid that people think they're crazy they hesitate to tell anyone what they're experiencing and try and get help? Luckily, in most of these paranormal instances, there's the hope that maybe someone else will also at least see the doppelganger you're seeing, and then you won't be alone in your feelings of questioning reality. At least someone else can affirm that you're not crazy, that the world just isn't what you thought it was. Is that comforting? It was supposed to be, but it doesn't feel like it's comforting.
It just means that there's two of you freaking out instead of one.
Well, this is a different twist in that realm. What if an entity could truly make you go mad by never allowing the possibility of others seeing what you see, by choosing to present itself differently to different people? So you're all seeing it, but you're not all seeing the same thing. How strange and terrifying.
Oh, that's weird.
Right? Like what if something could terrify you over and over, and then others do see what you're telling them to look at, but they don't see what you see? You see something vicious, they see something harmless.
Oh, dang.
How would that not drive you mad? You know, to one person, maybe the entity presents itself as, say, a dangerous and violent woman. But then to another, or to everyone else, outside your family perhaps, it presents as an innocent and helpless child.
Oh, dear.
Some paranormal investigators think that's exactly what happened to Kristine and Michael Barnett and their 3 sons. That they all saw one thing, and the rest of the world saw something else. Are they heartless adoptive parents who abandon a child with special needs? Or are they victims of something really, really hard to wrap one's mind around? This is an odd story. Time now for the tale of who is the real Natalia Grace? In 2010, Indiana couple Kristine and Michael Barnett adopted 6-year-old Natalia Grace from the Ukraine. Natalia has a form of dwarfism known for causing skeletal abnormalities and on occasion vision and hearing issues. And her dwarfism will add to the confusion of who and how old she really is. Natalia had come to the U.S. 2 years before being adopted back in 2008. Her first adopted family gave her up for initially undisclosed reasons, and then the Barnetts were contacted. Originally, they'd been set to adopt a little girl from Haiti, but their plans were halted due to complications that arose from that massive, tragic, and deadly earthquake that rocked Haiti in early January of 2010. Death toll estimates from that quake have ranged from 100,000 to over 300,000, by the way. In April of 2010, the couple was contacted by an adoption agency in Florida, saying they'd like to pair them with a special needs Ukrainian girl. The adoption that followed was a whirlwind process. And the Barnetts handled it like pros. They'd fostered other children from foreign countries before. One of their sons was highly autistic, and they knew how to raise a child with special needs.
That's cool.
Because they were familiar with adoption procedures, they weren't alarmed when the first age discrepancy popped up regarding Natalia. They knew that the medical care children received in their home countries was often shoddy and the records often poorly kept. They were told that Natalia was 6, having been born in 2003, but in 2010, a physician examined Natalia said she was 8, 6, 7, 8. At the time, they thought, what does it matter?
True.
They were getting a little girl that they were ready to love. For a couple who'd long yearned to add an adopted daughter to the 3 biological sons they already had, it still seemed like a dream come true. But in reality, at least according to the Barnetts, it was the beginning of a nightmare. The couple soon started wondering if Natalia was much, much older than 6 or 8. Sometimes she seemed so much older. Sometimes they talked about how if they hadn't adopted Natalia and had just met her somewhere, they would think she was an adult. They knew they sounded like monsters, thinking and saying things like this, but Natalia often gave them the creeps. And much of what they encountered, if true, would certainly be creepy and disturbing. For example, when Kristine first helped give Natalia a bath, she saw that Natalia already had pubic hair, and not the kind a child would just begin to get at the onset of puberty. For lack of a better term, she had an adult amount. Nearly an impossible amount, in Kristine's estimation at least, for a 6-year-old to have, and extremely rare, extremely improbable for an 8-year-old. Later, she'd come to believe that Natalia had been hiding her menstrual cycle since she arrived. That seemed to be the only explanation for the blood found on clothing and sheets, and she wondered how long had she been having her period. A few months? A few years? Many years? How old was she? They also thought that Natalia's behavior was just odd and not kid-like. She never seemed interested in toys or playing with other children. When kids played around her, again according to the Barnetts, she watched them with a cold, adult expression on her face. She also apparently had a significant Ukrainian accent, but when Kristine and Michael tried to speak a few words of Ukrainian to her, she claimed she didn't remember them. She didn't remember any Ukrainian words. She also said she didn't remember her life there at all. She also, according to the Barnetts, didn't have any baby teeth. And in the years she would live with them, she also never grew an inch. They spoke with doctors, and this was not typical at all for a child with the type of dwarfism she had. It was also strange. The Barnetts found everything about Natalia odd, and they started to wonder, who was she really? Had they just unknowingly brought a strange young woman into their home, a young woman who slept down the hall from them and their 3 boys? And then soon, they went from concerned to outright frightened when Kristine walked into the kitchen one day to find Natalia pouring pine sol into Kristine's coffee. Kristine says she ran over, stopped her immediately, hoping, praying that Natalia was just kidding around, messing around, making a mistake. But then when she asked Natalia what she was doing, she says that Natalia replied with, "I'm trying to kill you."
Ooh.
Now, of course, Kristine and Michael are scared, very scared. What if not only did they have a strange young woman pretending to be a child in their home, what if they had a strange young woman in their home who was trying to kill them? What if she went after one of the other children? The Barnetts claim this pine sol poisoning incident was quickly followed by other blatant attempts at murder.
Jeez.
They've reported that Natalia allegedly threatened to stab them in their sleep, also once blatantly tried to push Kristine into an electric fence she was walking past. After the last incident, the Barnetts took the girl to a hospital and stress center to be evaluated. There, to their further shock and horror, Natalia allegedly told the doctors quite honestly what she was planning on doing. She said she was going to kill Michael, Kristine, and their 3 biological children.
What the fuck?
She said she had wrote out in a journal that she had a plan, including what she would do with their bodies. Kristine and Michael were now convinced that they were not dealing with the little girl. They had invited someone or maybe even something else into their home, something deadly. But then when doctors performed some bone tests, they approximated her age as only 8.
What?
2 years later, in 2012, further tests put her age at 11. Were the Barnetts wrong? During these years, the Barnetts kept their doors locked at night, kept a close eye on Natalia. She remained in their home. Legally, she was their child. But despite the bone test, they didn't believe that she was their child or a child. In June of 2012, the Barnetts legally changed her birth record to indicate she was born in 1989, not 2003,
Whoa.
as her Ukrainian records indicated. Some accounts say they'd gotten a new doctor to agree with them that she was not a child. Others say they pressured a child into lying about her age to be rid of her, which is obviously horrible. Then they admitted Natalia into an inpatient facility where she was under 24-hour observation and care, and the staff there, a group of medical professionals, all allegedly did agree with the Barnetts that Natalia was an adult. What the hell is going on here? How could so many people differ in their perception of this one person, Natalia? How could her adoptive parents, doctors, everyone around them not all agree that she was a child or that she was an adult unless she could have somehow been playing tricks on them? Could she be some sort of malevolent entity, an adult sociopath masquerading as a child? Are the Barnetts terrible people? Are they cruel and neglectful parents? Making all this even more complicated, there is evidence out there that, at least in regards to one of their sons, they're great parents. In March of 2011, the Indianapolis Star featured the Barnetts' eldest son, Jacob, in a front-page cover story. At the age of only 12, he was already studying physics and developing his own theories of relativity
Wow.
at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis.
Oh, I'm really an underachiever.
CBS News, me too. CBS News 60 Minutes even did a profile on him. Jacob was invited to give a TEDx talk on reality perception. By 2013, I watched part of it. He's, very intelligent.
Great.
By 2013, the Barnett son had been accepted to study and began working towards a doctorate degree at the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada.
I literally don't even know what you just said.
The family decided to move to Canada now to allow their literal genius son to pursue the highest levels of mathematics. They decided to uproot their entire lives for the good of their son. Pretty solid parent choice there. But at the same time, they also decided not to bring Natalia with them. Terrible parent move, or were they trying to save their family from somebody they truly thought was harmful? They moved Natalia into an apartment in Lafayette, Indiana, paid her rent for a year. Then Natalia disappeared for a while from public view. Meanwhile, in February 2014, Michael then files for divorce from Kristine.
Oh.
Allegedly, disagreements regarding Natalia and the move led to their divorce. Later that same year, their adopted daughter Natalia is evicted from her Lafayette apartment, telling authorities months after she began living alone that she had not seen her family since they left the country. A former neighbor near her residence remembered that the girl attended classes for a while at Lafayette Adult Resource Academy, and then she stopped going to class. According to an affidavit, Natalia left Lafayette 2 years after arriving in February 2016, a month before a guardianship case for her custody was filed. The case was dismissed in January 2018 without a guardian being appointed. An attorney who now represented Natalia disputed the age claim, said she was now legally 27 thanks to that new birth certificate that was not correct, in his estimation. The attorney proclaimed that the Barnetts had just been trying to get rid of her by changing her birth date. But why would they do that? The Barnetts had experience with caring for special needs children. Their genius son was, again, highly autistic. They also knew the ins and outs of the adoption process. If they were having problems they didn't think were fixable, why not try and find a new adoptive family? There doesn't seem to have been any attempt. Why just straight up abandon her? They claim they left her because they really, truly believed she is not who she claims to be. Charges and an arrest warrant for her adoptive parents were filed. Michael Barnett turned himself in to U.S. authorities, posted bond on September 18, 2019. His attorney said his client was innocent of the charge of abandonment. The following day, Kristine turned herself in, then bonded out of jail. Then on November 7, 2019, American talk show host Dr. Phil interviewed Natalia, who was claiming to be 16. She appeared on the show with Antoine and Cynthia Mons, a couple she'd moved in with. She said, "I actually thought I'd found the right family after bouncing around a lot of families. I thought I'd found the right family for me." Natalia admitted a previous family had returned her to social services when she injured another child. She said, "One of the boys, me and him were really close, so we wrestled. But I landed on his arm wrong, so the mom thought I was trying to break his arm," Natalia said. And then she was given back to authorities. That seems interesting. She then denied attempting to kill the Barnetts. She told Dr. Phil that poison claims were just a misunderstanding that occurred while she was cleaning with Kristine. She denied making plans to stab them. Dr. Phil seemed to believe her. He said, "I certainly don't think this individual is 30 years old, so I think the court has done a real miscarriage of justice here in reading her the way they have. I don't think there's really medical support for that." He's not a medical doctor, though. Was Dr. Phil yet another person that Natalia was appearing differently to? Both parents pled not guilty during an initial hearing. A trial date was set for January 28, 2020. The charges were dropped in September of 2020. Why? We don't know. Currently, there is an ongoing appeal, from what I can tell, to have a higher court reinstate the charges. How will it all play out? A lot of people out there on Reddit threads and YouTube comment sections seem to believe the Barnetts were victimized by an adult Natalia. A lot of other people seem to strongly believe Natalia, the child, has been victimized by the Barnetts. Who's right? Did a girl's parents force their adopted daughter to say she was an adult in order to legally abandon her? Or was she actually an adult sociopath pretending to be a child and actively trying to kill them in their home? Or could there be another option? Was Natalia somehow presenting as both an adult woman and as a child to different people? Is she really who she claims? How terribly tragic that is, if that's the truth. Truly a heartbreaking story. But if she really is who the Barnetts claim, not only is that tragic for them, it is fucking terrifying for the rest of us. Isn't that a wild story?
I'm 12.
Yikes, that is creepy for me.
Can you imagine?
It's such a weird story. And again, like Sophie and I went back and forth on this.
No, I'm glad you included it. Because it's not necessarily scary, but it's like a psychological brain scratcher. It's a little...
Yeah, like what if you had somebody in your house that presented as this like helpless, innocent person to everyone else,
right? And
then when no one else is around, was trying to literally kill you or kill like other people in the house. I mean, that is a terrifying possibility. And again, this is why it's compared to Orphan, the movie.
Well, yeah, that is. Well, I don't know that movie, so I actually don't know what that movie's about. So.
It's a very similar, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it's a similar premise where it's like, yeah, this girl is like adopted, but then the girl is not a girl. She's a woman. And I can't actually remember if she's what kind of demonic overtones there are or anything, but I do remember like she's trying to kill the people in the home.
Yeah, yeah.
I think.
You think?
Yeah, it's been a while since I saw it.
To me, the sort of like line that we're walking along here is that on one side, she is mentally ill, and that there's...
Right.
Whether that's she's sociopath, she's psychopath,
right.
multiple personality. I don't know. There's like something going on this side that all probably relates to, like you said, like she's got these physical deformities. Like that could all be lumped into one thing.
Yeah.
So on one side you have a totally innocent person of their own regard, right? Like they're not choosing to have these issues, but they do. But then on the other side, if we're taking the paranormal route, it's just so bizarre because then it would mean that she is like a shapeshifter.
Right.
Is basically where my brain went, where it was like...
I had that word written a few times and I took it out because it felt too sci-fi, but yeah.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't sound like she necessarily looks different. Like, okay, like when they take her to... I didn't get the vibe that when the Barnetts were taking her to the doctor, they were like, don't you see she's 12? And that they were like... Oh no! But look at her graying hair. Or like, it didn't seem like there were any very specific notes about what was different, about what this doctor would see that would say she was 8 versus this doctor who said she was 27. But almost like a mind control kind of thing where she's like,
weird.
Maybe sometimes she's really tired and like couldn't manipulate the way, or the demon, I don't know. It's
and again, it's like, like we're saying, it could just be such a sad thing, and the Barnetts could be monsters. Some people think that they're just terrible adoptive parents.
Well, maybe they're monsters, but don't know that they're monsters. Like they're not doing it to be harmful.
Yeah, they could believe they could believe something that's not true to be true.
Yeah.
And I just think like with that sociopath thing, that's always interesting to me too, where it's at nature versus nurture. And I just feel terrible. I mean, forget like adoptive parents. I mean, but like all parents, biological, adoptive, whatever. It's interesting how differently people will turn out who are raised in the same home.
Right.
And there is that, some people, there's science that shows that like nurture has a strong component, and there's science that shows that like some people can truly be sociopaths.
Right. And
how scary is that, just that possibility for any parent that you could have a monster, not a paranormal kind, but a real monster of a sort in your house that you can't fix.
Right.
That does want to hurt, that does want to like possibly literally kill you or kill their siblings.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't study serial killers the way that you do because of time suck.
Yeah.
But if you lined up the entirety of every murderer, rapist, killer, not all of them are going to have horrific childhoods.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like that, they're the anomalies. I mean, most, but they exist. Most serial killers, you look into them and you're like, oh my God, how did they not become a serial killer with this like traumatic of a childhood? Even though plenty of other people will have similar childhoods.
Well, that's the other side of the same coin.
Oftentimes they have many siblings who don't turn out that way at all.
Right.
But there is, there's that. There's kind of like this, sick formula where it's like terrible childhood plus a head injury plus some tendencies plus kind of like certain trigger events will, lead to that. But then there's also these cases of people who no head injuries, no doctors have ever found anything medically abnormal about them.
Right.
No psychologists that we know, court-appointed psychiatrists have found anything, in their childhood of like sexual trauma or anything.
Right.
They were raised by what seems to be a very loving family, and they just, Ted Bundy is like one of the most famous examples.
Yeah.
People will point to that he was lied to as a kid and told that his grandparents were his parents for a while and that his mom was his sister. Is that fucked up? Sure. Is that a reason to butcher just woman after woman in the brutal, ridiculous fashion? Of course not.
No.
Many people have much more horrific childhoods than he had.
Well, right. Like I think about what that, and I don't want to go like on a tangent about serial killers. I know that we're a little off. Anyways, but that girl who lives locally, she was, brutalized by that guy at Wolf
Shasta
Lodge.
Groney.
Yeah, it's like,
by Joseph Duncan,
While her life is entirely fucked up,
I
don't know that I've ever heard of like her then reenacting that.
No, she's struggled.
She's not
with,
well.
No, she struggled with drug abuse and things. Of course, like the trauma she went through. But I've never written or never read anything, and I have looked into her police reports. Nothing that shows that she's been violent,
right,
towards anyone.
And she
experienced so much violence.
The worst of the worst, in my opinion. So, it is just a really kind of fascinating thing. And then the other note that I made about just like fostering and getting a child from another country and language barriers. I know that the adoption process is lengthy and expensive, and we have friends that foster and have fostered and adopted. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I have seen it, and it's complicated, but it's not perfect.
Right.
And there's no way of anybody knowing, like when you bring a kid into your house, you don't know. You don't actually know who you're getting.
Yeah, and
that's crazy.
And we're obviously not trying to deter anybody from adopting because so many kids in these wonderful homes.
No. I'm just saying, like, if there was like some like demon-y situation and then like she ended up with another family.
I know.
Like, how long until she tortures that family if she is possessed by something?
Right.
It's just a crazy
just a wild
story.
premise. Couple pictures, then we'll move on.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot of.
No, I think it's nice. It breaks things up. This first picture, Natalia. Again, 6 to 8 year old child with dwarfism or older.
Yeah.
Possibly much older.
And it's so hard to tell with that diagnosis the age of
it complicates it.
Yeah.
And then the second picture, more recent. This is from Dr. Phil. So like a teenager or older.
I mean, again, like you can't.
It's just tricky.
It's tricky, but I mean, in my opinion, she looks like, and she's 30.
I know that's some people, and that's what's interesting in the comment section. Some people are like, oh no, she's clearly a teenager, and then other people are like, no, she's 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very divided.
But you could say that about like anybody.
Yeah, you could see that about a lot of
like
people.
some people think I look like I'm 18 and some people think I look like I'm 45. You know what I mean?
No one thinks you look 45.
Actually, yes, they do.
Okay. In this last one, 2019 pic of Michael and Kristine Barnett. So that's just the adoptive parents there. No longer together, but yeah that's
and it sounds like something that could drive a family apart.
Oh, man. Yeah, for sure.
Just so interesting. And all those like medical tests and stuff.
And they were varied.
I don't know. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
Very bizarre.
You ready?
Okay.
You ready for another odd tale?
Yeah.
Now it's time to explore the mysteries of Pyramid Lake. Quite a bit of setup before any possible spooks. Interesting backstory. We've talked a little bit about bodies of water on Scared to Death before. The mysterious Lake Lanier in Georgia, ghost ships, more paranormal reports revolving around turbulent, murky waters. A lot of the world's water is incredibly dark and mysterious. I found this interesting. More than 80% of the world's oceans remain unexplored.
I know. Isn't that a fascinating number?
It's a huge number. We really don't know for sure what all is down there, what could be lying in wait. We also don't know for sure if anything may or may not be hiding in the over 300 feet deep, dark, and often muddy depths of Nevada's Pyramid Lake. The lake contrasts starkly with the desert around it, a bright blue 15 by 11 mile large oval surrounded by a barren landscape of red and brown. It brushes up against some mountains, nestled in the Truckee River Basin, about 40 miles from the city of Reno. Today, the land it lies on is part of the Pyramid Lake Paiute Reservation. The Paiute tribe regulates all aspects of fishing and recreational activities on the lake. Pyramid Lake is what remains of Lake Lahontan, a colossal inland sea, 8,600 square miles large that once covered most of Nevada during the last ice age, approximately 2.6 million years ago. While just a tiny fraction of what it was once a part of, it's still a massive lake. It has a surface area of approximately 112,000 acres. It's a terminal lake, meaning it has an inlet but no true outlet. And there are a number of underwater shelves, caves, and other structures that can't be seen from the surface. Caves and shelves that some think are hiding some kind of monsters. The name Pyramid Lake comes from numerous soaring limestone cone-shaped formations called tufa formations that line the shores and jut out of the water here and there, with the largest of these being Anaho. There we go, Anaho Island. It looks, for lack of a better word, mystical. The lake is well known for its natural beauty, as well as for being a sanctuary for vast amounts of birds, geese, pelicans, gulls, owls, grebes, and ducks. Also home to many species of fish, especially the massive Lahontan cutthroat trout, which routinely grew up to 15 pounds.
Wow.
And it's a gigantic trout. I'll have some pictures. A lot more people have seen the lake than might realize it. An image of Pyramid Lake was the default screensaver for Apple's first iPad when it came out in 2010.
Funny.
Many of the people seeing this image of Pyramid Lake at night probably did not realize the lake is rumored to be haunted. Some, of course, believe that the strange stories about Pyramid Lake are nothing more than just silly fables, stories once told to keep children away from the water, stories now repeated just to give us the chills. But others aren't so sure. They point to the fact that every year, a number of bizarre and unexplainable events occur at Pyramid Lake, peaking in the spring. People say they've heard things that aren't part of a silly fable. The cries of babies, terrifying screams, and then, of course, there's the vast number of fishermen that have vanished into Pyramid Lake's deep waters. What could possibly be happening at Pyramid Lake? Time now for the tale of the mysteries of Pyramid Lake. Before white settlers arrived, the area around the lake was inhabited by members of the native Paiute tribe, which is comprised of three related groups of Native Americans: the Northern Paiute from eastern California, western Nevada, and southeast Oregon, the Owens Valley Paiute from the California-Nevada border, and the Southern Paiute, who occupied the Colorado River Basin and Mojave Desert. The Paiute of Pyramid Lake were known as the Kwiwi Takata, meaning Kwiwi eaters, with Kwiwi referring to a type of fish endemic to the lake. This band of the Paiute people lived and had the area to themselves for centuries before the lake was then rediscovered and mapped by an American explorer and entrepreneur, John C. Fremont, in 1844. This discovery set off a wave of European settlement and spelled out disaster for the Paiute. Miners chopped down pinyon pine trees, an important source of food for the Paiute, thanks to their calorie-rich nuts or seeds. And the imported cattle destroyed the already sparse vegetation. With more and more people scrambling for limited resources, interactions between the settlers and the Paiute soon soured. Violence followed. Paiute raiding parties attacked settlements, killing anyone they found in their path. It eventually escalated into full-out war in 1860, a series of two battles known as both the Paiute War and the Pyramid Lake War. These two battles killed around 80 settlers and an unknown number of Paiute. Why couldn't the new settlers and the Paiute get along? Some of the Paiute thought they knew the strange source of this misfortune, that it wasn't a battle for resources, it was the result of an ancient curse. One old legend among the Paiute was that the lake was home to a race of mermaid-like creatures, and that one of these beings once fell in love with the village man. Then when the man brought this creature to his village, announcing his intention to marry her, the village scorned her, told the man to take this strange creature back to the water. The creature was so infuriated at how she'd been treated that she put a curse on the area, promising that anyone who lived there would experience hardship and misfortune. Is it this curse, some say, that brought the settlers and the tribes to war? Others believe the source of the violence and deaths leading up to the present are the result of a much more recent and darker legend. According to this legend, decades before the battles with the settlers, the Paiutes living near Pyramid Lake would drown malformed and premature babies in order to weed out their weakest members and keep the tribe strong.
Jeez.
And ever since, the lake has been haunted by their angry ghosts. Vengeful spirits seeking revenge on the people that discarded them, not realizing that those responsible for their deaths are long gone. Do the ghosts of murdered babies still haunt Pyramid Lake today? Many have said that something in or around Pyramid Lake can be heard crying and wailing, especially in the early morning and evening hours, especially during the spring prime fishing times for Lahontan trout. Some think they're hearing a creature sometimes called water babies, according to local lore, and that the ghosts of these murdered children somehow morphed into something else, into some kind of monster. They believe the water babies lived on, in a sense, past their deaths, that they grew up into something terrifying, something that could survive beneath the surface of the water, down in those caves and shelves, occasionally coming up for blood. It's been said that these water babies, whether ghosts or monsters, lurk beneath the surface and have been responsible for everything from damaging equipment to causing lethal boating accidents to outright attacking and dragging fishermen into the water. One local saying about the water babies is, if you hear them, you will have bad luck. If you see them, you are dead. Pyramid Lake does seem to have more than its fair share of missing people and deaths. While it's hard to find official figures, countless news stories tell of swimmers and scuba divers mysteriously drowning in the lake with many of their bodies never found. For just one example of many, on November 25, 2014, local news outlets reported that a fisherman had died and two of his companions were missing after their boat was found capsized, and they've never been found. They were reported missing after failing to return from the weekend trip on Monday. News sources described them as frequent fishermen at the lake who usually docked their boat at Pelican Point. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office helicopter found the dual outboard motorboat flipped over more than a mile offshore in the Hell's Kitchen Canyon area. How did it get there? It seems strange that experienced fishermen got swept so far away from their dock by just maybe the wind. Something else happened. Much stranger, after another couple of men went missing years ago, according to a few different websites, their dead bodies were found in Lake Tahoe, even though they had drowned in Pyramid Lake.
What?
How could that happen? One theory is that the bodies floated there. Pyramid Lake is fed by the Truckee River, which is mostly outflow from Lake Tahoe, so the two bodies of water are connected, but how could a dead body float against the current upstream for roughly 70 miles? The answer is it couldn't, unless it was taken there by something, or by multiple somethings. And this is so weird, a lot of fishermen have reported the fish themselves acting very strangely in Pyramid Lake in ways they have never seen before. One man wrote in a very odd archived forum post, "Wanted to update you guys on my Pyramid Lake trip. Michelle caught the fish of the day. It put up a fight as she reeled it in, and we saw why. It measured 21 inches. But we'd already got a bunch at that point, so Michelle carefully released it. Then something crazy happened. All of a sudden, there were trout all around our boat, literally dozens and dozens of them coming up to us. They were huge and acting very strange. The larger ones were darting towards us and swimming away, then coming back. The smaller ones were circling us. I said to Michelle, 'What the heck do you think is going on with the fish?' Michelle frowned. 'I don't know, but they're pretty aggressive,' she said. 'Maybe we should head back.' I was about to tell her not to be so silly. Hard for a fisherman to walk away when fish are practically falling in your lap, but I was getting worried too. As I reached for the oar, a larger trout swam up and bit my finger.
What?
It shook its head back and forth like it was trying to tear a hole in me. I've never seen a trout so aggressive. I shouted to Michelle, 'Get the oars!' Michelle scrambled to get the oars and row us back to shore. We could hear pounding against the side of the boat, like the fish were throwing their bodies at it, trying to smash the wood. It felt like they could break through. We finally reached the shore and climbed onto the dock. The fish were still agitated, darting away from us, back and forth, circling in a huge mass. Has this ever happened to anyone else? Any advice? Jason. And then months later, Jason edited his post to add the following. Okay, need to add something to what I said earlier since what I wrote wasn't entirely true. Michelle says she didn't see what I saw, but what really made me take the boat into the dock that day was not just some fish. I saw something else in the water. I saw a couple things, actually. I don't know how to describe what I saw other than it was like a monster or something. Little kid-sized things. Little kid-type faces. Scared the hell out of me. I still see those faces sometimes at night. Had a bit of a hard time getting back into fishing since that day, to be honest. I definitely haven't gone back to Pyramid Lake. Don't know if I ever will. Having a hard time fishing anywhere. Because sometimes when I look at the water now, I see those faces. Far enough down not to get a real good look, but close enough to the surface to know what you're seeing. I hate to think what those things would have done to Michelle and I if they would have gotten a hold of us. Anyone else? Anyone see those water babies, I guess? I don't know what else I'm supposed to call them. Would love to know that I'm not alone in this. Last I checked, it doesn't seem Jason's post has gotten any replies. Just a weird story.
That is bizarre. Oh.
Interesting folklore.
Yeah.
And just, just an odd one. Just an odd one. I had never, actually, you know what I was going to say? I'd never heard of the water babies thing before, but actually I think I did on Time Suck a long time ago. We did, some tribal folklore and talking about like various, creatures that they're supposed to exist. I think we were talking about skinwalkers maybe in that episode. And it led to legends of other creatures. And that was when this came up, but I didn't really look into it.
Do you think that's what the sunscreen is named after?
Is there a sunscreen called Water Babies?
Yeah, isn't that what the copper tone? Isn't that what the little kids? Somebody tell me. I know you guys will tell me. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. I want to show you.
Okay.
Does this first picture look familiar? I
have a vision
did
in my
recognize
head.
it of the very first iPad screensaver.
Oh, no, that's
Or
not what I
backdrop.
thought. No, are those
Like 2010.
stars
These are falling
or
stars, like little
meteors or something?
meteors. Cool picture.
Yeah, it is, but it's not the one I was thinking of.
So that's Pyramid Lake, and then this next picture, these trout. It's famous for these
Holy
gigantic
shit.
trout. Exactly. That trout.
And that's what bit Jason?
That's what he's claiming. Like one of these trout. That's a 24-pound trout.
That's insane.
I've never seen a trout that big.
It's so crazy because when you think about 24 pounds, I think about like our dog.
Oh yeah, that's a dog size. That's one of our dog size
That looks
trout.
even bigger to me.
Here's some of those odd rock formations.
Dog-sized trout.
That's where it gets its name.
So pretty.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Very cool. I mean, we're never going, but it's
It's not in a real. The land around it is not so pretty. Northern
Okay.
Nevada is just, I guess, to each
it's a
their
fucking
own.
desert.
Not my favorite scenery.
Well, you know how I do in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Dan and I took a road trip from Spokane before we were living up here and the kids were splitting their summers. We would come up and get the kids. And one year we were like, oh, let's just do like a road trip from Spokane to LA. It was super fun. And it was great. We went to Virginia City. We had some good stops. But then there is this stretch.
Yeah, I think it's Highway 97, I think is what we're on. It's this long,
fuck my
barren
life.
stretch.
Yeah. Barren is like, that is nice. That's a nice word for
Yeah.
it. It's just fucking desolate. And
You come across these little group clusters of houses sometimes,
so
and you're
weird.
like, oh, it's like it is like a horror movie.
It's like a Rob Zombie movie.
It is.
It's so scary.
Yeah,
And there's like, what do they call it where
like
they
a grindhouse horror film from the 70s or something.
Yeah, what do they call where they stockpile old munitions?
Oh, I can't think of that area, but yeah, in Nevada, there's this area where they,
Like where they bury
they're buried all these old like munitions. Yeah, it's just so they don't accidentally blow
off.
up in the wrong place. I don't know. Yeah.
But we were
it's like
driving.
a graveyard for bombs.
And we had been, prior to that, we'd been teasing the kids. We had this little song that we would sing to them about them, like basically crying about bullshit things.
Saddest girl in the world. Yeah.
Right. So we would sing that to the kids. It would be like, we'd be like, you got ice cream
Right.
for you. You had a
You went to
beautiful
Disney-
lunch and you had ice cream, but now you want more.
Right.
Like it was this whole thing, and I was losing my fucking shit in this like stretch. And then as we finally pulled into some little
Starbucks,
town,
yeah.
we were going to a Starbucks, and I was like, right as we were getting out of the car, I mean, I had maxed out. I was like, I can't take it. I was
You're having
having
like an adult temper tantrum.
Yes. And Monroe from the back seat, She's the saddest girl in the world.
Oh, it's like perfect comic timing.
Oh, God, it was so funny. That's what I think of when I think about the middle of nowhere.
Couple more pictures before we move on.
Sorry.
Yeah, creepy artist depiction of the water babies at Pyramid Lake.
Ugh.
So that's from the legend. And then
Kind of like the guy that's down low. He's like, ha.
And then looking for more creepy baby pics, I came across a pic of the seasonal mascot of the New Orleans Pelicans, the king cake baby.
Oh, yeah, he's creepy. Why couldn't they make the king cake baby cute?
He is so creepy.
Why couldn't he just be like a cherub?
I don't know. He's a very creepy baby. Pierre the Pelican is the main mascot.
Also, by the way, his
next picture is
legs
Pierre
are
the
so
Pelican.
funny because it's a human, and
Right.
like it's so ridiculous, the proportions.
And then Pierre the Pelican is the normal mascot. Also,
But also
a little bit
a
creepy.
dumb mascot.
Yeah. Pelicans is not
We got to
a great
work on
mascot.
Nola's mascots.
The Hornets, their previous mascot, was before that franchise moved to Charlotte, was much better.
Much better, but even still. This is one thing I wrote down was Pyramid Lake, the Little Mermaid story.
Yeah.
Is that the inspiration for the Little Mermaid movie?
It is not.
I had some weird thoughts about that. You mentioned a fish in the beginning, a grebe.
And that's not a fish. That's
is that?
It's a bird. It's like you've seen them. I'd look at the pictures. You see them in places where you have ducks often, and they're another waterfowl, but they don't have that big flat bill.
Oh.
They're there's a variety of different kinds of grebes, but you're
I'll
like,
look it up.
if you saw them, you're like, oh yeah, that little thing.
Okay. And then the last thing about like the lake being haunted, of course, then I thought about Lake Coeur d'Alene, but what I really thought about was Fernan Lake.
Oh yeah.
Because there is this bend around, like you go down Fernan Road,
Yeah.
and people die there at that bend every year. And
yeah.
I'm like, they always say like, oh, it's like young kids driving too fast,
Yep, you
drinking. But now
gotta
I'm
take
like,
that
wait
corner
a
slow.
second. What if it's like something jumps out into the road and scares you and
Ay. I'm excited for this under the bed story.
Okay, let's do it. I've got my two stories. Before we dive in, happy birthday. Your birthday was yesterday.
Oh yeah, that's right. We record these a little in advance, so that's right.
So I just want to say happy birthday one day late.
Oh, thank you. Just what did I just turn? 25, I think. 25, 26?
Same as me.
Yeah.
You've only got me beat by like a year. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, so we have a haunted house story to get things going, and it seems like a pretty straightforward kind of thing. But what I didn't like was when this ghost decided to show up. That's kind of the part of it that got me, because the activity started once the family started to remodel, and that always makes me a little bit anxious because I'm like, well, we just painted our guest bedroom, and like. Now is it going to show up more?
That is a common thing that comes up in so many like haunting / poltergeist stories, that when you change something in the home, that the spirits there supposedly do not like it, or sometimes really do not like it, and the activity increases substantially.
Well,
so many examples of that in so many stories.
You know that I believe that the ghost is in Kyler's room, and I haven't heard anything new. And
Maybe the ghost likes, then it changes.
Maybe they like that green color that we painted. Okay, here we go. Hey, Lindsay and Dan. First off, thank you for keeping me endlessly entertained and terrified each week with Scared to Death, and for pumping my brain full of knowledge juice with Time Suck.
Thank you.
You guys are the absolute best. Second, oh my heck, I have a long and terrifying story to share with you guys about the house I grew up in and all of the hauntings I endured there. The house that I grew up in was a cute little brick home in a small country town with 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The house was set up in a sort of large L shape and sat towards the end of a cul-de-sac. My parents bought the home in the early 1990s and settled in with my sister and I. My early memories of the home were happy and light. It wasn't until my parents started to renovate the house that the energy in the house shifted from warm and welcoming to cold and tense. You know the feeling you get when someone's watching you? The hairs on your neck stand up, your chest starts to tighten, your breathing quickens as you simultaneously try to silence it, and you know you're not alone. That was the feeling I always had in my bedroom. Sometimes the feeling of being watched turned into sheer panic, and I would burst from the room, run down the hall, and into the safety of the living room. It had always been just a feeling, until the feeling turned into a touch. I had gone to bed one night before the rest of my family, and my mom had promised to come and tuck me in after her show went to commercial. I'd gotten myself into bed and shut off the lights and started to drift off to sleep. A few moments later, I heard my bedroom door open and heard soft footsteps on the carpet making their way to my bed. I felt a hand lay on my cheek, and I opened my eyes to tell my mom good night. Only, when I opened my eyes, no one was there. I threw the covers over my head and willed myself to sleep. After that, things began to pick up. I was in middle school now, and my mom worked at the elementary school in my town. It was summer vacation, so I was trusted to be home alone with the promise that I wouldn't use the stove and I would keep the phone lines open in case of emergencies. Like any other day that summer, I woke up to an empty house and a rumbling in my stomach. I grabbed my CD case, chose a mix that my crush had burned for me, and popped it into the DVD player and started making my breakfast. I was enjoying my morning jam session when all of a sudden, the music came to an abrupt stop. I went into the living room to discover that the DVD player had opened all on its own. I chalked it up to the player being old and just pushed the CD back in and started towards the kitchen again. But then I heard the DVD player open once again, and then the TV shut off. I was a little freaked out, and I called my friend to see if I could come spend the night with her. She said I could, and I was relieved. I needed to get out of the house for a little while. I hung up the phone, opened my closet to grab some clothes, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little girl run down the hall.
Whoa.
She had dark hair and a flowing dress. I could hear her feet hit the hardwood. I felt sick. I was terrified. I quickly walked into my mom's bathroom to grab a spare toothbrush, and that's when I felt it. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. Something in my brain told me not to look into the mirror, but I couldn't resist. I jerked at my head. Nothing. I breathed out a sigh of relief. I started to walk out of the bathroom when a little girl's voice shouted, "Hi!"
Oh my God.
I ran for my room, grabbed my things, and headed outside to wait for my friend. After that, nothing happened for a long time. I graduated high school and was in the process of preparing for college when I met a guy. He asked me out on a date and I agreed to go. When he picked me up, he said we were going to see a movie. We ended up watching The Conjuring. I'm a peeper to the max and was not excited about sitting in a cold movie theater without a blanket and having my eardrums assaulted by the demonic screams coming from the surround sound. I sat through the whole movie knowing I shouldn't be there. I didn't feel alone in my own seat. It felt suffocating. That night, I took a shower and went to bed. I had dreams of being possessed and crying out to Jesus to save me. When I woke up in the morning, I said a little prayer, swore never to watch a scary movie again, and started my day. That night, my sister and I were helping my mom with her computer when we heard a loud crash come from my bedroom. We all looked at each other, confused as to what could have made such a loud noise. I went into my room and nothing looked disturbed. I looked in my bathroom and my heart sank. An angel bear that had been sitting on the back of my toilet was now sitting in the middle of the floor. This thing was heavy. It was a wax bear, a weird gift from a relative, okay? And there was no way it got there by itself. I picked it up and I put it back on the tank. No sooner had I gotten back into the computer room when we heard an even louder crash. This time we all ran to my bathroom to find the angel bear in the middle of the floor with my makeup lying in a perfect circle around the bear. I shakily laughed and put everything back. I tried to say it had been a strange coincidence, but we were definitely all scared. That night, as I laid in bed, I could hear whispering in my ear, and I felt a weight on my chest. I prayed and begged for safety, but it didn't come. When I finally found sleep, I was tormented with dreams of possession, pain, and death. I would wake up from the dreams screaming out for Jesus. I could never get out his full name, though. It was always a fight to try and say it. Tears falling down my face, I knew I was losing the fight. I started waking up with scratches on my body. I had dark circles under my eyes. I was exhausted. I didn't want to stay in my room anymore and began sleeping on the couch. My dad would get mad at me and say I shouldn't be afraid of my own home. He just didn't understand. I finally told my parents what was happening, and my dad told me I was just imagining things. But my mom went pale. She told me to stop saying it out loud. She didn't want to hear it anymore. I felt helpless and finally turned to my aunt, who is very religious. I told her everything about the things I saw as a child. She gave me instructions on how to cleanse the house. I walked through our home reciting prayers and following whatever advice my aunt had given me. Thankfully, after 2 weeks of cleansing, I felt free. No more nightmares, no more whispers, no more scratches. Fast forward to last November, I was helping my dad move out. My parents had gotten a divorce and they were selling the house. I was going through old pictures, certificates, school projects, etc. And I found a drawing I had made as a little girl. It was a drawing of our house. It was drawn from the outside, looking in, as if the house had been cut in half and you could see the attic and the main floor.
Mm-hmm.
In the drawing was my sister, my mom, my dad, myself, and our family car. However, as I scanned the picture, my eyes gazed to the attic portion of the drawing. In black crayon, I had drawn a little girl standing in the attic. I took a picture of it and sent it to my mom. She immediately called me, and her voice was shaking. She told me that she had believed me the whole time, and even she had seen the little girl in her room. The girl had been twirling by her bed at night, and sometimes she would feel her hand press against her skin. Caitlin.
Yikes. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I think it's just because there's so many horror movies where they've shown up.
Yeah.
But a little dark-haired girl.
I know.
It scares the shit out of me. Like, that image is somehow scarier. It's somehow scarier than, like, in a way of, like, a monster. I don't know why. But it's like that. The part that gave me the chills in that story the most was when she saw the little girl with the dark, coming down the stairs, and then heard her feet hit, and then what was it like? Hi, like a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would really
I think
mess
because it's
me up.
approachable, it's believable. It's not some like weird creature that you've never seen. It's like, yeah, I've seen a little girl run down a hallway with dark hair. Hi, Monroe.
I think my brain wants to assume that it is evil and it's trying to trick me. It's like if some horrible entity is trying to make you, feel like get your guard down. Mm-hmm. It's just like, oh, there's nothing to worry about. Just a little girl.
Yeah.
It's okay. And it's like, no, it's not okay.
Your squishy is so funny.
Oh, yeah, that one Emerson got me.
So sweet. Okay.
That one gave me the chills a couple times.
Okay, well, this is a good old-fashioned monster under the bed story.
I don't know. We haven't told many of those.
I don't think I've ever told one.
I don't think you have. Yeah.
Yeah, it is fucking intense. I think.
I don't know that I've had entities that, like, I know they think have come to bed. I don't know that I have actually for sure told a story about something that was, specifically under the bed. It feels familiar, but I can't tell if it's just my memory of a story I told or just seeing something else or reading something.
Well, any parents who let their kids listen, like if this is all an issue in your house, you just, not kidding, you want to stop right now. Okay. Did you ever have like a routine at night? Like I definitely had like, okay, yep, there's something under the bed. So I would have like this routine of like how I'd come down the hallway, I could step here and here and then like dive into my bed,
I did. And actually, I don't think I've told this story here on this podcast.
Yeah.
I scared the shit out of my sister growing up. Like the most I ever scared her by far, she must have been, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, somewhere in that range. And so that would have put me at around, 11, 12. Mm-hmm. And her room was down the hall from my room, this little trailer where we lived. Mm-hmm. Mom's room was on one side of the trailer. Yeah. And on the other side, it was the guest bathroom and then our 2 rooms. And she had to walk past my room to get to Mom's room where she'd always want to go sleep in Mom's bed because she was scared.
Right, right.
And she was doing that for a while there because for this, I don't know how long it lasted, maybe a couple weeks before I got caught. I would do this thing where I would tell her that there was something horrible happening, but that I was trying to help her. And and I would like psychologically torture her and like try and give her incentive not to rat me out. Yeah. So what I did with this one is one day, this is so messed up looking back. I was like, hey Donna, I don't want to freak you out, but I've been seeing something under your bed and it's bad. Like it's a demon, it's a bad monster. I mean, it could kill you. And then her eyes like all wide-eyed. She's like, of course, terrified. And she's like, gonna go tell Mom. And I'm like, no. I'm like, if you care about Mom, you can't tell her. Because if Mom knows that thing is there, it will kill her.
That's so mean.
So I put her in this crazy mental space. So then I swear I'm not making this up. I did all this, and then so her, the hall to her room, the little tiny hall, went by my door. And so at night, when I would be sitting there, usually just playing Nintendo, have my door open, I would see her sprint down the hall, and then like she would do like this long jump into her bed because she didn't want to touch anywhere. Oh yeah, because I told her, I'm like, you'll be okay. It'll probably be gone in like a month or so. Like I have all this weird knowledge.
You gave it an expiration date.
I know all these great things. I'm like, you just have to not touch the floor anywhere near your bed, and you'll be okay. And then Mom finally was like, why the hell is Donna sprinting and jumping into her bed every night? And then got the story out of her and like everything came crashing down. But before that, she would sprint. And then a couple times I would see this moving blanket start to shift. Like she'd be completely under her blanket and crawling down the hallway. And I'd be like, go back to your room, Donna. I'm like, just get back in your own bed. And then the little blanket mask would crawl back. Oh, so sad.
Poor sister. Oh, all right. Well, this is an anonymous story.
Yeah.
I figured I'd finally throw my own spooky personal story into the hat after enjoying several great episodes of Scared to Death. This story is genuine and still gives me chills recalling it to this day. A great many people know of the classic and spooky monster under the bed, be it from personal childhood fears or hearing it from others. Most are likely indeed a product of a vivid imagination and fears, but some may just be have a bit more credence. My story dates back to 2001 when I was 8 and living in Aurora, Illinois. I'm an only child, so it was just me, my mom, and my dad. One area of our house that always scared me was the space behind the furnace, which resided in a far corner of the basement. For some reason, that space behind the furnace always seemed to be incredibly dark, even though there was a small window close by that let in a good amount of daylight. My bedroom was above the furnace, like right above it. I always thought that whatever may have been in that darkness behind the furnace would stay in the basement, and it couldn't get to me. My mother always prayed with me before I went to bed, so I figured I was protected by my family's religious beliefs. I have no idea why things suddenly started to change towards the dark and terrifying. My parents' marriage was getting a bit rocky around this time, with some fighting here and there, so perhaps it was this negative energy, but who knows? Around the time things began to get strange, my mom had moved into my room and out of the master bedroom to sleep. We'd gotten a bunk bed to facilitate this, myself being on the top bunk. I clearly remember the night things began. It's burned into my memory. I woke up in the middle of the night for no real reason. The room felt really cold, which was odd. Due to being close to the furnace, it was generally warmer than more often than not. The air also felt heavy and smothering, which unsettled me a bit. Then I heard the faint noise of a hum. At first, I thought the sound was coming from somewhere outside my bedroom window, but it eventually came again loudly, and I quickly realized it was very much coming from within my room. The best thing I can mostly compare it to is from Jurassic Park, that sort of T-Rex sound. Not roaring, but if you've watched the movie, it's those low and guttural growls that are often made. I was frozen in bed. I was surprised my mom hadn't woken up from the bottom bunk beneath me. My curiosity soon got the better of me, and a need to try and identify the source of the sound took over. I was looking for some kind of logical explanation for these sounds. I looked over the edge of my bunk, and from under the bed I saw what looked like a rolling black mist, just barely flickering out from that space. The growls continued intermittently. Okay. This scared me out of my wits for the obvious reasons, but also for fear that this thing possibly could attack my mother. I stared for what felt like an eternity, nothing more coming out from under the bed. I thought maybe turning on the light would make things go away. Light always chases monsters away. I didn't want to move, but I also didn't want to remain like this all night for fear of what may emerge and come for me or my mom. I managed to jump down from my bed and sprint across my room towards the light switch. The very second my feet hit the wood floor, I felt a horrifying presence behind me. I didn't look back for fear of what I might see, but I did let out a terrified scream as I ran. I managed to flick on the light and look behind me to see nothing but my mom, who had shot awake and looked at me with concern. The growling was gone, and so was the mist. My mom calmed me down and reassured me that I likely had had a very vivid dream and was sleepwalking, as I had been known to sometimes do. I accepted this and managed to go back to sleep with no more growling for the night. This wasn't, however, the end. The growling continued randomly, sometimes back to back, night after night, and other times weeks apart. I didn't want to say anything since at the time my parents' marriage was so strained. I didn't want to add to their stress. I bit my tongue and tried to tough it out, to go by my dad's creed, to be a man. Trying to solve problems myself, I thought if I confronted what scared me, it would dissipate and go away. You know, face your fears. I asked my dad if he'd be there for moral support, and he agreed, likely happy to help his son to grow and overcome a childhood boogeyman. I went down to the basement, towards the furnace and that pitch-black space. I stood a good foot from the space, and it felt like something could reach out and grab me and pull me away from my dad into the darkness at any moment. I managed to repeatedly say, "I'm not afraid of you," with some kind of confidence as my dad stood behind me. He praised me for being strong and facing what scared me. I wanted to believe I overcame whatever fear that had caused these events on the surface, but deep down, I felt as if I'd just taken a stick and poked the bear. For a while, it actually seemed to work, but that soon ended and whatever resided behind the furnace decided to come back. Late one night, I woke up once more with the familiar sense of heavy, cold air. Once more, that terrible growling began, but I still tried to stay strong, thinking if I faced this thing, it would go away. I looked over my bed, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. 2 piercing, glowing red eyes gazed up at me as a bestial-looking head held those eyes. It seemed canine-like in a way with pointed ears. A pair of hands gripped the bottom edge of the bed, long and gnarled fingers pressing into the fabric of the box spring as it gazed up at me. The thing's eyes felt feral and at the same time keen and aware. I felt like this thing was silently saying, "Guess what, little boy? I'm very real. You can't get rid of me." It continued to emanate that bone-rattling growl. I definitely couldn't summon the courage to dart across my room and flick on the light as I had before. Whatever this entity was would certainly catch me. The thing didn't make an effort, though, to crawl up further towards me, so I laid back down and simply tried to go back to sleep, the growling a weird soundscape in the background. Horrible nightmares plagued me after that night. Whenever I did get to sleep, it felt like no matter what I did, that thing's presence was lingering, frightening me. My mother was growing a bit concerned. My dad had claimed it was just me being a kid, fearing the thing that kids fear. He tends not to believe in the whole demon possession shadow people kind of thing. He had more important things to worry about, like bills, house maintenance, and his marriage. And I don't blame him. My mom is more of the spiritual side, though. She believes in demons, negative energy, and so on, and she began to think that something more was happening. She still wasn't hearing the growling, but she did feel a heavy presence in my room that had begun once the entity had shown itself to me that night. She hung a crucifix above my bed while saying a protective prayer. She told me it would keep me safe. I felt better once more after watching my mom do her prayers as well as having the crucifix close by. It gave me a sense of safety, and thus, shortly after, I would be visited once more by the entity. It was the same growling, but this time, it's not what woke me up. It started after I woke up as opposed to being the thing that woke me up. I didn't want to look over the edge of the bed. I didn't want to see what I'd seen last time, but at that age, I guess I was already a bit of a creeper since I eventually looked. I saw a large, black, humanoid figure crawl its way back out from under the bed and began to crawl around on the floor of my bedroom. The way it moved is like nothing an animal or human moving on. The way it moved is like an animal or human moving on all fours. It shifted in jerking but unnatural movements, growing slow, fast, and so on. The thing's back legs looked like human legs if you twisted them 180 degrees, with its front arms similar to a human's, save for those twisted long fingers. It simply crawled and moved its way throughout my room, but thankfully it never looked up at me. Thinking back, it's as if it were searching for something, like it could detect my presence. I thought about the protective prayer that had actually worked, but seeing this thing crawling around terrified me. I remembered, as I tried to reach up for the crucifix, that if I could hold it and pray, I could probably make it go away. The room was dark and I couldn't see too well. Instead of grabbing the crucifix, I knocked it from its nail off the wall down between the narrow spaces of my bunk bed frame and the wall. The sound of the wooden crucifix hitting the floor was like a landmine had gone off. I instinctively looked over the edge of my bed, and that thing was now looking right at me, with those red eyes clinging to the opposite wall like some kind of spider with its head bent in an unnatural way. I pulled the covers up over me till my eyes were peeking out, and I closed them as I started to pray to God for protection. The growling continued, but I just kept my eyes closed and continued praying. I heard the creaking of wood, and suddenly I felt those long fingertips wrap around my ankle, squeezing painfully tight with a freezing cold touch. My eyes shot open, and looking down, those horrible red eyes gazed right at me from the foot of my bed. I could see a faint maw of twisted and pointed teeth curled in a dark grin. I felt frozen, not just in fear, but as if this thing's very gaze had locked me in place and paralyzed me as those hands gripped my ankle. It was chilling to the touch. I managed to gasp enough breath to let out a scream, which woke up my mom, who jumped out of her bunk bed, switching the bedroom light on. The moment the light came on, I blinked from the brightness, and when I opened my eyes, The thing was gone. My mom tried to comfort me, but I was visibly shaken and terrified. Needless to say, I slept on the couch for the rest of the night. The following morning, my mom found a giant bruise around one of my ankles, which looked like a large handprint. I finally told my mom all that had transpired since this whole terrifying debacle had begun. She didn't dismiss it. She didn't dismiss what I had claimed to see. She simply told me she'd take care of this once and for all. I guess once she finally knew what had been happening to me, plus the thing actually hurting me, my mom entered hardcore mama bear mode. She got some sage and began in the basement, making her way to my room and the rest of the house. I walked through the house holding a large stick of sage she'd bought while she recited her protective prayers. We eventually finished the process in the enclosed front porch of our house. My mom pointed out to the driveway and told me I shouldn't be worrying about the thing under my bed any longer. It was evening, but the sun was still up enough, and I managed to watch this inky black figure slithering its way down our driveway, across the street towards the house opposite of ours. Mind you, the house in question had been vacant for years. No furniture, no electricity, nothing in that house. This black thing got to the front door, and before slipping its way underneath, the front entrance to this house had a little light that would illuminate the immediate walkway, and as this thing slithered under the door, the light flickered for a few seconds. True to what my mom said, I never had any other experiences. Part of me ponders what happened and what I encountered as some sort of demonic shadow person after listening to Time Suck and Scared to Death. Who knows? I sure as heck am not going to dig for that answer. I hope this gave you both a bit of a spook, as well as the whole Scared to Death crew. Maybe the dark space beneath your beds will have a more ominous sense to it after you read my tale.
Hey, and who said that? It was an anonymous?
Anonymous,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is interesting to think that there could be something that has like this weird shape, like this like crawling little humanoid thing that could be hiding under there. When the creature was first brought up, I flashed on that movie we just saw, Blackcoat's Daughter.
Yeah.
The little beast that would appear next to her. Sometimes it creeped you out.
Yeah, the
kind
like
of a Donnie
bunny.
Darko bunny. It's like he, I guess, described it as a bestial thing with the eyes. I was like, oh yeah. I don't think that thing had red eyes, but
it didn't have any eyes, but it's
bestial.
the same. Yeah, and like, just so weird. Mm-hmm. And the mom couldn't see it, but I love that the mom believed her child and saged, and apparently out it went. That's
right.
weird that they also saw it leave.
I know.
That little detail kind of did me in.
Yeah.
Like, what if you were like, Lindsay, like I think something's really like in our house. I'm like, okay, and I sage it, and then we look out the driveway and you just see it.
Oh my God. That story, like right now, just in this room, didn't bother me for whatever reason, or didn't give me the chills is the same way as the first story. But I know that tonight, or one of the nights, here coming up, I'm going to be, walking into bed, and I'm going to get right by the bed, and then I'm going to flash on it and be like, dang it.
I know, there's just enough shadows cast on walls and just enough like, I don't know. Don't you kind of wish that we slept when it was like really bright outside?
No, I do like sleeping in the dark, but I've actually been sleeping through the night pretty steady lately, which is nice.
I know you've been a snore monster.
Have I really?
Yes.
But that's when I get actually. And it was happening to me a couple nights ago, 2 nights in a row. When I got up to use the bathroom, I woke up just spooked. I don't remember having any dreams. And then when I went to the bathroom, it was a very powerful, don't look in the basement feeling, and don't look at that mirror that leads upstairs.
Why?
And I like hardcore avoided both of those, and then just got back to bed, and then I fell back asleep quickly. But I had like the chills, and I normally don't wake up like spooked. And that both happened like a couple days ago. So, a couple days ago, and then, 2 nights in a row.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll be burning some sage when I get home. I love that you don't tell me these things.
I forget sometimes in the morning. And then when it's bright outside, I'm just like, whatever.
But I have all the crystals and sage and stuff.
True. But you're also like, I know, I'm hesitant to talk to you about that stuff because if I were like, let's say I were to wake you up. Okay, if you were to wake me up in the middle of the night because you saw something scary, I would be more dismissive, which I know is annoying, but I would be like a calming presence. I would be like, no, it's okay, come on.
No, you would not be calming. You'd be like, ugh. You'd be annoyed and not calming.
But if I woke you up, it would go from like, if it was already at like a 6 out of 10, like paranoia, scared level, it would immediately go to 10.
I don't know if that's true.
You would feed the fear.
I don't know if that's true. I am better at calming other people down. Like
this slice,
I don't know. I spend my life getting you to like, ooh, buddy, cool it.
Yeah, when I get fired up about stuff. But in this situation, I don't think you'd be a calming presence.
Well, you should find out.
Okay.
You should find out.
We'll see how that goes. Me waking you up in the middle of the night, telling you that I think there's something outside.
Basically, what I'll want to do. Well, you didn't say outside.
Outside of the bedroom.
Oh, okay. I think what I would do is, yes, I'd be like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be like a little bit nervous, but then I'd be like, okay, let's go together. Let's flip on all the lights. Let's like clear it. Let's make sure we're okay. And then I'd want to come, because that's what I do. Then I would want to come back to bed, and I just would want to sleep with the pink Himalayan salt lamp on, because it gives like just the right amount of glow. It's not even about the salt lamp. It's like not too bright. You can still sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I would definitely want to snuggle.
True.
Yeah. Do you have some Annabelle shout outs you want to do?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. So I would like to thank the following Annabelles for supporting us on Patreon, and thanks to those Annabelles who have been showing up at our watch parties too. I had another fun one recently. First off, Jennifer Pinkston, Jose Luano, Kate Puckett, William Perry, Alyssa and Sam, Jonathan Wetner, Jeff Maddle. Thank you, Jeff, for the pronunciation, too, for adding like ladle.
So then why'd you say like ladle?
Oh, like ladle. I can't even read. Like
Jeff Madel,
Jeff
like
Madel.
Like dreidel.
Right. I love that the pronunciation guide is in there, and I still screwed it up.
Did I spell ladle wrong?
Nope, you sure didn't.
Okay. All right. I was like, oh, shoot, I did it wrong.
I saw ladder and thought of ladder, and then I just added that to ladle. Like, it's a ladle. Hey, can you grab that ladle? And I need to get this soup poured out of this poot. Can you grab me a ladle for the poot? And then there's a saucer pan. Okay, so Jeff Madel, Shannon Dolan, Maria Gonzalez, Tanya Buffalo.
Did you say Maria? Maria?
Maurya.
Oh, okay.
Maria.
I was like, wow, you're on a roll.
That would be hilarious if it was clearly Maria. And I was like, Maria? Maria, yeah.
We're on a roll today.
No, Maria Gonzalez, Tanya Buffalo, Brittany Whitehouse. Now, this I think is a misspelling of you. You have it Birttany, like Brittany. But it might be, I've never seen Brittany, but I've seen a lot of Brittany's.
Oh, did I inverse the letters?
If you flip the R. So I'm going to say Brittany.
Brittany. Well, we are really crushing it.
If you are Brittany, I apologize, Brittany.
I think it's Brittany.
I picture, when I say Brittany, I immediately picture Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street, and I picture Bert having like long flowing locks. Who's that? Oh, that's Brittany. Okay. And I really apologize if it's Brittany. Davy Bell, and thanks to Kim Watson, Caitlin Teresa, and Caitlin Teresa, and Jessica Breer. I will say in our defense, I always feel better about names.
Yeah.
If you spend a lot of times in airports,
oh my God,
listen to the ticketing agents, not the ticketing agents, the
gate agents.
Gate agents. When they're like, you can almost like with the pause in my head, I just add the fuck. when they're like, could Hasaka Malakalus please come to the desk or whatever it is. Please approach the gate agent. Yeah.
I think that I have a lot of sympathy for it because my maiden last name was so
Oh yeah, I've seen that a million times with you.
Radziminski. They're like, and to me, in my mind, I'm like, God, it's so easy. It just
looks phonetic.
But you wouldn't know.
But when you see it as this big blob of letters,
you're just like,
ugh.
What's that?
Oh, I've seen it a ton of times.
Yeah.
You know, when people go to like say your name and they're like, they pause. They're like Radzais Manaisky. You know, like they just can't. Even on Cummins.
I know. Cummins. My favorite is Cummings. There's not a fucking G in our last name.
But your mind just adds it.
I know.
There should be. I will say, not to defend our name, it's spelled wrong.
How do you know that?
Because I'm sure my ancestors were stubborn when they came into.
What about all the other Cumminses?
It's all wrong. It should be. You should have the G there. G would be the Americanized way. I think in Scotland it was more the N, and then people just got stubborn and were like, I don't want to add a G. Well,
fine.
You know what? Ancestors should have fucking added the G.
Yikes! I highly disagree, but okay, fine. Wow.
We're not in Scotland anymore.
Whew, my goodness. Well, I would like to properly pronounce and thank the following Annabelles.
Okay.
I better not fuck this up now. Tiffany Davis, Finney Richards, Julie Watt, Leah Easterly, Scott Olson, Julie K, Katie Lynn Bostick, Christina Klein, Hannah King, Nicole and Andy Waffles, Sadie Noah.
Waffles?
I know. I don't know if that's really their last name or not.
Mr. and Mrs. Waffles? Okay.
I want that last name.
Brittany Waffles.
At least their first name isn't anything like Christina or anything with like where people are calling them like chicken and waffles.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, come on. When you have a crazy last name, you've heard every iteration.
Kyler's getting that right now with Cummins, our 15-year-old.
Yeah.
He was like, so did you have a lot of fun with our name at this age? And I was like, oh, yep. Sure did, buddy. I'm like, you're hearing every variation of cum. And he's like, I sure am.
Yeah, and he is not amused.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
he's a
not
good
amused.
sport, but he just doesn't have that kind of humor. So he's like, oh, please. Anyways, Sadie, no last name, Carol Spikes, Kayla Burnett, Lloyd Settles, and Eric Bolts. I had pretty good ones this week. Okay.
And you get spoopy shout outs?
I sure do, Dan. Okay. So I have to Ola from Anna, happy name day. This is a Polish tradition I don't expect you to understand.
Okay.
To Alyssa from Michelle, happy birthday. To Weasel from Honey Much, happy anniversary. Now, those names might sound familiar. It's so cute. This couple, one wrote in for a birthday shout out while simultaneously the other one was writing in for the other person's. And then they sent me this message. They're like, listen, we know this is obnoxious, but could we just get the trifecta and have our anniversary as well? And then we'll leave you alone.
Nice,
it was very cute. To Ryan from Lindsay, happy birthday. To Des from Daniela, your mom, happy birthday. And now this is a big, important one. This message is to Ozzy from your mom, Natasha. And she just wanted to tell you that she's hoping that you're okay. And in fact, all of us here at Bad Magic are pulling for you. Ozzy was in a really bad car accident where he was the passenger. The driver died on site. And her son, Ozzy, he's a huge creeper, father of a young son, and is in the hospital really pulling for him to
fight, Ozzy.
fight.
Yes. We will be thinking of you.
Yeah, we'll be carrying you in our thoughts.
And that is all for today. Thanks for continuing to send in your personal tales of terror to mystory@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. You can email us for everything else at info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. Thanks to Logan Keith. Logan Keith on social media. We're killing it today.
Lothan and Logan.
And badmagicmerch.com, the merch design. Thanks to producer Sophie Evans for help with story curation. Zach Flannery for directing and producing today.
Woohoo!
And that was Zach with the little growl thing that got you. Zach Cohen for custom sound bed creation. Heather Rylander for organizing the My Story emails. Subscribe to Bad Magic Productions on YouTube if you'd like to watch the show. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Scared to Death Podcast, if you'd like to see pictures from the shows and more content. Thanks to Liz Hernandez for moderating the Creeps and Peepers Facebook group. And if you want to be part of our monthly horror movie watch party, become an Annabelle on Patreon. We just watched The Black Coat's Daughter a few weeks ago, and a few weeks from now, we'll be watching The Invitation together.
Mm-hmm. And if you're an Annabelle, some of you will be joining me next Sunday for a private makeup class with me and my best friend who's a makeup artist. There's all sorts of fun little things that happen there.
Fun. Enjoy your nightmares, Creeps and Peepers. Hope you were scared to death.
Bye, guys.
If spirits threaten me in this place, fight water by water and fire by fire. Banish their souls into nothingness and remove their powers until the last trace. Let these evil beings flee through time and space. Evil may pass through, but has no home here within, scared to death.